Today, we're diving into a fascinating debate that's really bubbling up in the real estate world. It's this idea of hiding key information about a home for sale versus just being totally transparent. And really, it all comes down to one simple question.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Should things like how long a house has been on the market, or if the price has been dropped over and over, should that be kept under wraps from potential buyers? Well, there's a growing number of folks in the industry who are arguing, yeah, it absolutely should. So let's start there and look at their side of the story.
Okay, so first up, let's dig into the argument for keeping things secret. The whole idea here is that by controlling the flow of information, you can actually give the person selling their home a pretty big advantage. The argument goes something like this. Making data like days on market or a home's price history public actually hurts the seller. The thinking is, the more a buyer knows, the weaker the seller's position gets. So, according to this view, transparency is a problem for a few big reasons. It supposedly torpedoes a seller's negotiating power, it might signal that they're, desperate to sell, and in the end, it just puts them at an unfair disadvantage. And on the surface, that sounds pretty convincing, right? But, and this is a big but, let's pivot and look at what the actual market data tells us, because this is where things get really, really interesting. Turns out that common wisdom might not be so wise after all. And that right there is the key. The idea that hiding information helps a seller. It feels right, it sounds logical, but the facts on the ground, they tell a completely different story. It's a classic case of what we think is happening versus what's actually happening. This slide really gets to the heart of the whole misunderstanding. It's all about correlation versus causation. See, the myth is that seeing a house has been on the market for a long time causes it to sell for less. But the reality is that an overpriced listing is the real problem. It's what causes both the long wait time and the lower price it eventually sells for.
So the data itself isn't the issue. The real drivers are the fundamentals. Was the house priced right from day one? What's the condition really like? And what's the actual demand for a home like that in that area right now? Those are the things that actually move the needle.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. A long days on market count isn't causing the home to struggle. It's a symptom. It's like a mirror, and it's just reflecting issues that were already there with the price or the property. And trying to hide the mirror doesn't change what's in the reflection. Now, this debate isn't just about strategy and numbers. It's also about ethics, about professional responsibility. Because, a real estate deal isn't just about the seller. When you think about it, a transaction serves multiple parties. Of course, you've got the seller, but you also have the buyer. And then there's this bigger idea, the health and integrity of the entire market. A fair system has to work for all of them. You see, real estate professionals have what's called a fiduciary duty, basically a responsibility to act in the best interests of their clients. And that responsibility doesn't just belong to sellers. When you start intentionally hiding important market info, you're directly affecting a buyer's ability to make a smart, informed decision. And this brings us to a really powerful question. Are we really serving anyone's best interest by playing gatekeeper with information? Or does that just chip away at the trust that's so essential for a healthy market to even function? Okay, let's get super practical for a second. Even if you do think hiding data is a great strategy, you're up against a massive hurdle in the modern world, the internet. And as we all know, the internet has a very, very long memory. The whole idea that you can just scrub this information from existence is, well, it's a fantasy. Any determined buyer or their agent can piece this history back together in minutes. They can check other websites, dig through old cached pages on Google, or just pull up the public property records. The data is almost always out there somewhere. Which really begs the question, if the information can't truly be hidden, what's all this effort for? It feels like the only thing being accomplished is creating a little bit of distrust and maybe even hurting both sides of the deal in the process. So, if hiding the data isn't the magic bullet, then what is? This brings us to the final, and I think most important part of all this, focusing on the fundamentals that actually get a house sold. Just hoping that some uninformed buyer is going to magically show up and overpay for a property, that's not a plan. The source material puts it perfectly. It's just avoiding the tough but necessary conversations about what the market is actually doing.
And here's the real strategy. Success comes from getting the basics right. Pricing the home correctly from the very start. Getting it ready and presenting it well. Marketing it effectively. And maybe most importantly, having honest, clear, candid conversations with your clients.
At the end of the day, this is the key takeaway. The market just has a funny way of rewarding people who work with it, not against it. Success isn't found by trying to obscure the truth,
but by aligning your entire strategy with the reality of the situation.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. When it comes to something as big as buying or selling a home, what truly has more power in the long run? A carefully managed perception or the unvarnished, data-driven reality? Thanks for tuning in.